Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I am, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I am joined by Bubba Myron.
Hey, folks, how y'all doing at whatever time you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform? Hello.
Or watching on Facebook.
Or watching. Yes. We didn't get a pre-show in, folks. Patrons, I'm sorry this week. I was on the phone late with Hunter last night, and it wound up messing the entire thing up. I apologize to you.
Yeah, we straight out want to apologize to all of our Patreon members. This is the first week in a long time. A couple months ago we didn't have one, but it was because of a video issue, it was a YouTube issue. But we're full disclosure here. We were just so slammed for time with everything we've got going on. We did not get the pre-show in. And if some people have never seen the pre-show, they're probably asking,
Saucy.
What is a pre-show, right? Well, over on our page at patreon.com/tappedoutpod, we do a pre-show basically where you can see how the whole show's prepped up and made, and it's kind of one of the cool features of the being a Patreon member. Along with you can get free shirts, you can get extra bonus stuff. Which, by the way, we're going to try to cut a new one tomorrow to make up for the one we missed today. So that's kind of the big one. That one we're going to discuss some of the things we won't get to about the Georgia Wrestling History Award nominees. There's some hot sizzle we're going to leave for that show. But we are, as you can probably tell, if you're just curious, this will be probably the heaviest Georgia indie talk show we've done in a really, really long time.
And why is that, Nick?
It's because it is the Georgia Wrestling History Award season, and we're going to go through all of that in detail. There's a couple WWE, AEW, Hall of Fame stuff that we do want to talk about beforehand. But man, it's a hot season in Georgia indie wrestling, man.
The Oscars, the Emmys, the Golden Globes, the ESPYs, and all other award shows, the MTV Music Awards combined for Georgia indie wrestling. This is an awards program that our friends at Georgia Wrestling History have done for a while now. They've taken a lot of time and effort to put this together, and I think this is going to be the best awards year yet because there's some really good people running for all the different awards this year.
Oh yeah, we're going to dive into that real heavy later. But first and foremost, let's jump into there's the last week or so. There's been a lot of buzz about the WWE releases, non-releases, and what that means for All Elite Wrestling. What do they gain out of it with all of the names? Obviously, Sin Cara, Luke Harper, and the Ascension were all let go. Let me ask you a question first. What's your take on WWE keeping guys or letting them go if they're not happy?
Well, this is another time where I'm going to go back to what I've heard on podcasts before about Vince McMahon from maybe Bruce Pritchard. He's probably one of the better experts on him. Vince never did like to keep people who were unhappy because they spoiled the nature in the locker room. I can't say if these four guys were in the locker room anytime recently. They weren't doing them any good. And I don't know if did the Ascension request their release? Or were they just
I don't know. I hadn't seen that. And but the crazy thing you just mentioned, it seems like the older he got, that changed, because the rumors are Vince is the one saying keep them, and Triple H is the one who says if they're not happy, just let them go.
Well, that's the thing. Triple H was Vince's pupil. And when I was talking to Paul the other night, he just doesn't have the same outlook that Vince does. I hope folks can pay attention and learn that a bad egg in your basket can ruin all the other eggs. So letting them go is a good thing. I would like to see this. I would like to hope these guys prosper, but I honestly don't think you've got anything there outside of maybe Harper, whose gimmick doesn't fit anywhere on AEW. Sin Cara's not going to wrestle there. Sin Cara's going to go back to Mexico and work for AAA. This Sin Cara, there'll probably be another Sin Cara come back. He's not going to get to take the name because WWE owns that name, right?
Oh, I would gamble based on what went down that first time they let that other guy go who was Sin Cara, and they had a new Sin Cara, that's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah. And we're looking at the Ascension. So if we're going to do the internet mark thing, AEW's got to get these guys. They got to buy all these guys. Well, no. And we were talking earlier about WWE might release a bulk of superstars at one time because AEW can't pick them all up. I think Harper would be wise to work on the indie circuit for a few months to prove what he can do, because he's not been on television at all where anybody can remember him. Work on the indie circuit, get some connections. I'd say swing through Georgia, spend some time with DDP, work Southern Honor, and then see about your comeback on that. The Ascension, I don't think the Ascension have a place anywhere. Now, they're going to lose that gimmick, and they're going to be whatever their real names are, but
well,
you're going to have a bunch of former known as guys.
Their saving grace would be, however, if they're trying to build the tag team division, they need more tag teams in All Elite Wrestling, so they might get signed.
But when are they going to quit signing? They can't sign everybody they release, because then you just become what's the syndicated show? The W syndicated show?
Oh, you mean Main Event?
Main Event. All AEW is going to become as Main Event if they sign all these C-level WB stars.
Well, luckily Luke Harper was smart enough. He trademarked his old indie name, Brody Lee, so he'll at least be able to get back to his old indie name that he had before he was in the WWE, which is cool. Like you said, I think Sin Cara is probably heading back to Mexico. Ascension at least has a spot in the tag division. And like you said, I do believe that there's a good chance, because there's rumors of more cuts coming for payroll standpoint, so they can sign other. They're going to let. I think they're going to let some more of the mid card, lower card guys go, save that money, and then pack it on top of guys they want to lock up and secure. Because
that's smart business.
Well, I just think at the core of it, Luke Harper is the only one who can make a real impact over in AEW right now, out of all the ones they've let go up to this point. But think about it. That's why they've kept Rusev. Remember, there was the rumors he wanted to be let go. Revival wanted to be let go. They're not letting them out of their contracts, nor would I.
No, you'd be crazy to let the Revival go.
Yeah, I mean, but that's also why they went out of their way. They recently signed to bigger contracts. The Miz, Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns. Why he signed those guys? Because those guys who could be altering by making a jump over.
Look at Paige. They re-signed Paige recently too, because she's somebody they can need and use in different capacities. Yeah. We've got Mike Bennett Canales, or whatever you say. Now Maria is out with the baby, right? She's on maternity leave.
Probably, yeah, maternity leave
so
again.
Mike's there. I don't know how childbirth is covered. Is WWE going to pay for the birth of her child? Because childbirth without health insurance is extremely expensive. Even with health insurance, my daughter was like 1 before I finished paying off all her damn bills. It was they'll pay for rehab. I know that but he didn't go, and all this other stuff. But man, I would like, if I had another child come into the world, I would like to be in a position where I knew I was earning a living that was significant enough to pay for that child. I don't care how creatively stifled I was, but that's just me.
True.
As a father, that's what I see. But there's going to be people gone. So they're going to let go all these people. They're going to flood AEW, and everybody on the internet is going to be like, you got to get these people. You got to hire this guy. You got to hire this guy. And they're just going to wind up, if they do that, they're going to wind up broke.
Well, I think they're a bigger challenge when you think about it, Myron. If they hire all these people, I don't think any of them are ready to be top guys. They're going to have to guys who have to be made. How many projects can you afford to take on at one time?
Well, you already can't get all your people on a show. You have to have your YouTube show. Okay? You have to have that YouTube show. You can't get everybody on the TV once a week. You only have one TV program. Well, you've got a ton of development people. You've got guys that aren't fit to be on mainstream TV right now. You're going to have to shift people around. And if you get to the point, all you're going to have is guys that need to be rebuilt and changed and get over and all this stuff. They're not getting over their whole roster right now. Think about it. They've got the women, if they pick up one more women wrestler, they're insane. Because they got to get these people in line and fixed and straightened up. Because that whole division is a mess.
Well, it's not a matter of them signing. They've got to have us. They're going to sign somebody they're going to do something with.
Yeah. Because they got a lot of people just like for lack of a better point, just riding the bus now. You know, are they seriously flying Janela to every? Bless you, if that was a sneeze. But are they flying all these weirdos all over the country and not using them on television? I mean, seriously, are they flying Orange Cassidy and Marco Stunt to all these events and not putting them on television? That's
maybe.
Expensive. That's expensive. You know, I know. You got the cons are just got all the money in the world. They're billionaires.
I don't think they're flying everybody in. I think they're just getting to sit home and draw the check. So we'll see. But I mean, so yeah, I mean, but it's what we're just saying is in the grand scheme of things, I think that everybody with these releases, some people are like, oh, it's a good thing they can go to AEW and get a job and then go to Impact. Man, you might be better off staying where you are and getting a steady paycheck, and being creatively stifled might not be the end of the world. So
outside of the pay rate, I don't know if I would want to go to AEW right now. I would go someplace like Impact where I could be bigger and make a decent way and not have to tour.
Well, AEW doesn't do house shows, and that was something recently that came up.
Yeah.
Cody was talking about they're not going to do house shows. They're just basically going to work one day a week. You're working TV, and then you're working pay-per-views, and then that you can kind of go on your own and do indie shows and stuff like that, kind of on your own, make your own money. So, I mean, it's work schedule-wise, you can't probably beat it.
That is gonna come back to haunt them.
I don't think so.
Letting your guys that you have signed work indie shows, they get hurt. You're gonna wind up with guys stuck. This isn't like Impact where you only tape once a month, or you tape 2 months worth of shows at a time.
Right.
They have to produce a show every week. So if a guy gets hurt on some school gym somewhere and gets knocked out of a main feud on television.
Well, I don't think anybody that's a top tier guy is getting hurt in a gym. I mean, for the most part, if they get hurt, they're getting hurt in Japan. Moxley's going back to Japan. Jericho's going back to Japan. But
did you see the pictures of his Moxley staph infection from Japan?
Yeah, I mean,
that was horrible.
So, but we'll have to see. But anyway, let's move on to the next thing. I want to kind of get through that because we know this Georgia Wrestling History Award section is going to be monster huge. Other things that came out this week was WWE Hall of Fame. Of course, two of the people going in have already been named. Of course, it is the NWO, which is going to be Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and X-Pac, which is drawing the most controversy out of it. Why is X-Pac in?
X-Pac will be in twice now.
They all are. That's the crazy. They're all two times.
Yeah, but X-Pac's not in there on his own.
No, because he's in as DX and he's in as NWO now.
But he's a faction guy. I mean, he did not get in on his own, and he was saying, "Oh, I don't really care to get on my own." I'm like,
okay, we're gonna break this in the conversation into a couple things because that's kind of where I wanted to go. Let's address one. Batista going in. Kudos. I mean, it's. Do you? Because I heard on Busted Open this morning, the debate of is Batista a first ballot Hall of Famer, and that just kind of made me shrug my thing of. Because Mark Henry's response made me laugh when he's correct. What the hell's a first ballot Hall of Famer in a wrestling Hall of Fame? You're a Hall of Famer, you're a Hall of Famer. He was like, the year he went in, Hillbilly Jim went in. His response was, we're both Hall of Famers. Dave LaGreca's comeback was, yeah, but all the Hall of Famers are not created equal, especially in the WWE Hall of Fame. He's like, a first ballot Hall of Famer is a top tier guy who's like Austin, Rock, Flair. Like when their name is eligible to go in, there's no doubt the first year they should be in. When
are they eligible to go in?
That was my comeback. When are you eligible?
Because Kurt Angle was working, and Ric Flair were both. No, sorry. Kurt Angle was working for TNA when he was put in. And then he came to WWE and worked some more. Ric Flair, when he was put in as a member of the Horsemen, was working for TNA, right? And had to
when he was put in as a Horseman, yes.
So they're not retired. They've not been up before the Sports Writers Award.
I think Angle was done. I think he came back to go in, and that's what got him hooked back into WWE. He went in. He still wrestled after. if you're wrestling after you're in the Hall of Fame,
Yeah,
well, you're really a first ballot because
he did those shows in England with Cody Rhodes. I remember Cornette talking about because they flew him over there to do the shows with Jim Ross. The WWE Hall of Fame would be the equivalent of having a Hall of Fame for comic book characters. Because
I disagree.
No. Let me get to my point here. It's objective. It's a real Hall of Fame that does not have a building. It's decided by Vince, and basically Vince only. I'm sure now he takes suggestions.
Well, he's always taking suggestions, Bruce says. They all write it down.
You can't treat it like going into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Like who's your Dale Murphy in the Wrestling Hall of Fame?
Like who should be in that's not?
Yeah, who's
I think the vocal minority would say it's got to be Demolition, right?
Well, yeah, but at least the
team. I mean, there's somebody who should be in that's not in. I mean, look, okay, let's all Owen Hart belongs in, but he's never going in until the shit's worked out with his wife in WWE. So don't hold your breath, right? I mean, but obviously, Chris Benoit's not going in, nor should he, for that matter. So I get when you come down to the core of there's Demolition should be in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, now that concussion lawsuit has fizzled out, it would just be, maybe a little resentment. But if me and you were, if there was a Hall of Fame voter group, if there was a ballot that went out, I could say first ballot Hall of Famer. But when the thing is just one madman's delusions, I'm not saying it doesn't mean something, because it does mean something to get in, but you can't say when they get in and how they get in.
Right. And I think that's what we're talking about is the whole first ballot thing is out the window when you're talking, WWE Hall of Fame. But I do want to say people that think that it doesn't matter, the question would become, does it? I mean, because I think at the core of it, wrestlers as a whole, not as individuals, wrestlers as a whole have an ego that likes to be fed. I mean, right?
Anybody that's a performer does, and you start seeing that with in wrestling more than you would in other things.
I mean, hello, stroke my ego. I mean, I'm all about it.
Yes, that's actually that's one of the main reasons I do that. That and the checks.
Yeah. So
I do this.
That's the whole point of saying, like, wrestlers have an ego that like to be fed, and I think that even though some might argue the WWE Hall of Fame means nothing. If I never got in, it wouldn't matter. That there's the part of that you're like, it wouldn't matter if you didn't get in, but I think it would be really, really good for them and their ego if they got in.
Well, wrestlers,
it's validation.
The main career of wrestlers out when they retire and don't wrestle any more matches, they have two big income sources besides their royalty checks: running schools and going to shows like WrestleCade.
Yeah.
So if you become a Hall of Famer, your prestige running a school goes up. Look at Robert Gibson. Look at Ricky Morton. Everything they put out says WWE Hall of Famer. You see those rings. Robert showed me his ring several times. I don't mean to call him Robert. Mr. Gibson has showed me his ring several times at shows. Just, being funny. Look at people who sign autographs. When you put up a list of people coming to your autograph signing, WWE Hall of Famer, I mean, there's a Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and I think that's terrific. I think that's actually a legitimate, well-done Hall of Fame with a place. But saying you're in the WWE Hall of Fame is a big deal, especially for retired wrestlers who could augment their source of income just by getting that designation. And the check you get from when you go in too.
But I think the check's like $5,000. It's not like a massive check or something. I don't know what it is. It's not super huge, but whatever. But I think that, like I said, I think the validation of it,
yes,
of going in, at least acknowledges the, and I get it. I was like, well, Coco Beware's in. I get it. but they're still. I think they try to get better sometimes. I mean, I think they've tried to get better from that, but at the same time, I think it's just more of an acknowledgement of one's contributions into the business in general.
Yes.
Goes a long way to that person, and
Yeah.
they from time to time, people forget that we all want validated. We all need that ego stroke, and that in itself, I think, makes the WWE Hall of Fame worth it as far as getting into it. And not only that, right? Not only that, I think that stretches all the way down to one of the topics we're going to talk about next, which is the importance of the Georgia Wrestling History Awards.
Yes.
So I know it's real popular and it's real cool to kind of say they don't matter. They're just awards for Georgia, from the Georgia wrestling history, right? I think we both probably share the same thought and the same opinion. It's very similar to what we just said about the Hall of Fame. It's really cool, and it's real cool, what is it? Too cool for school, and you're just, they don't mean anything. You probably haven't won one if you're the one saying that, because I think a lot of the guys that do get nominated and then win, they understand what it means to win these awards.
Well, guys that are workers, when they become Georgia Wrestler of the Year, that's increases a booker's interest level in that person. You're going to want to see more Logan Creed. You saw more Logan Creed in 2019. You saw Logan Creed in 2019 get a MLW contract. Not saying being Georgia Wrestler of the Year did it, but Georgia Wrestler of the Year got him more exposure. And in wrestling, exposure is important. Exposure and hot dogs are very important.
Listen, hold on. I'm going to throw this in there because we come from a long business world. And you know what it is? It's a resume tool. It's something to put on your resume as a wrestler. You're turning in a resume when you're trying to get, a WWE tryout. You're turning it, and those things do look good on your resume.
Yes.
Whether people want to admit it or not. And there's so many things about winning one of these awards. It's one thing, like, because I agree with you. I'm going to be blunt here. If it was fan voted alone, I might tend to agree with that. The importance I think would be less. I think they mean more simply for the fact that you have to be. It's your peers, so people inside the wrestling, business that vote on these awards.
I remember back when I was in the good. Well, I'm not going to say the good part, but the highlight of my career when I was reputable. Not you know what I mean. I was at my high point where I was a hot commodity. I was a hot commodity. I was somebody that you wanted. And my company would give me awards, and I would beat other people in my field for those awards. And I'd be like, it doesn't mean that much anymore, but at the time it made me feel better. But my company, every time they get a JD Power award for something, they basically tell everybody in the whole world. Because people think it's okay. They get to think, well, they get the JD Power Award for best place to work, JD Power Award for the best place to shop. People look into that kind of stuff. It's these awards being judged by your peers, though. The Academy for Music, Arts, and Sciences, that's the people that do the Oscars, right? Movies, arts, I don't remember the name of it. But they're done by their peers. You don't just get a vote in these things. It's not like the Baseball Hall of Fame, You ever do the old punch cards for the Baseball Hall of Fame? Yeah. The ballots. These ballots only go out to people who are in the wrestling industry or professionally associated with it. This will be my third year voting, third year of the podcast. I asked to do it the first year. Second year, I asked again. This year,
you would assume you're going to get one again.
Yeah, and I'm going to get a vote in this. I'm not a wrestler. I've only been inside a ring one time, and then I almost couldn't get out of it. But I watch a lot of this stuff, and I draw opinions on it, and we talk about it every week on the show. We get a lot of hours out of us talking about wrestling on this show. So the people I vote for are the people I think I would want. Basically, the people I want to see in a card.
Hold on, there was something said on the show that I think And it wasn't on last night's tipping point. As a matter of fact, it was something that Stephen Platinum made a great point to point out. When voting for these awards, you should vote for who should win, not who you want to win.
Mm.
And trust me, when we go through these, there are absolute categories where I will vote should over want, because I know you should know the difference. And if you should vote with your head, not with your heart, on these awards, because guess what? That's what makes them mean more, is when you vote the right way. That's just my opinion.
I can't argue with on that. I can't argue with on that. You got to treat these with some reverence, especially if you're a wrestler or a booker, somebody who is a referee, if somebody who works in commentary or announcing. This is recognition for people who are best at what they do, and it's a good thing.
If you're
this into successful careers,
if you're trying to be somebody, and so that's what I'm saying. When you want to be, as somebody who is and has won these, do they mean anything? Referee David Weekley, look him in the face and say, does this award mean something?
Well,
he will tell you yes.
That was something very simple they said on Tipping Point when they were talking about who was awards. Referee David Weekley, who works everywhere, he is endorsed as being a good referee when he won the award last year. Daryl's won it before. Daryl's a good referee. It's people who are working matches, people who are announcing matches, people who are refereeing matches, that all go in, and people who watch a lot of matches like we do and talk about a lot of matches, that say, if I was going to have a match or if I was going to book a card, I would want a referee to do it. And this is the guy I pick as the best referee in the state. And I don't know when Weekly's had a weekend off. That's his name should be Works Weekly. Okay? Because he works all the time. They brought him in to work those big Hispanic shows.
David Works Weekly. There you go. That's his new nickname.
It's the trick. I mean, seriously, who have they not helped? Most Improved, Logan Creed. Logan Creed Wrestler of the Year. This year, Logan Creed's the favorite to win Wrestler of the Year. Got an MLW contract. Most Improved wrestlers get up. They move up the thing. Danny Jordan won last year for Woman of the Year, Female Wrestler of the Year. She's gotten much better. She's got better, and she's ascended to the point where she's probably the favorite. She works mainly in Georgia, but now she's getting outside of Georgia.
Yeah.
She's working all over the state of Georgia and outside the state because she was the Female Wrestler of the Year. These awards are very prestigious. And I think the person who has put a lot of people in positions, Most Improved, Entertainer of the Year, you've noticed the people who have gotten away from other schools and started coming to One Fall have all increased their stock in these awards.
Well, and that's just it. I think kind of what we're talking about here is the importance of these awards across the state. If it wasn't a big deal, it's real simple. Why would people be coming out of the woodwork to make sure their voices were heard, their faces were seen, promotions were seen? Examples like Viral Pro, right? If they didn't mean anything, why did James Caleb Kitchens go out of his way to make sure people, I mean, think about it. They got on. They got their he's on Facebook. He sent stuff to Larry and to Steven, right? So they could watch it. It's important because it was so important that they went out of their way to make sure that everybody knew who Viral Pro was. The challenge of being geographically challenged is a term you might want to use, but they did so much to the point that they're doing things like this. Like this week, the Georgia Wrestling Indie Talk section, where we're going to cover all the nominees, is sponsored by Viral Pro Championship Wrestling. They've got a huge show this weekend, December 14th, down in Thompson, and you're going to see stuff just like this.
Viral Pro Wrestling returns to the Sweetwater Gym in Townsend, Georgia on December 14th for the final event of 2019, Holiday Havoc. Come see all of the VPW superstars, including a huge triple threat main event for the Viral Pro Wrestling Championship, featuring Darius Lockhart, Sean Legacy, and Joey Lynch. Tickets start at just $11 and can be purchased in advance at vpw.ticketbud.com or at the door. Viral Pro Wrestling. Get infected.
Well, brother, I mean, that's the kind of stuff, right, that we're talking about, man.
That looks terrific.
I mean, that's it. They went out of their way to make sure that people knew who they were, and bringing you cards like this, December 14th, Sweetwater Gym, 1742 Rennes Highway, Thompson, Georgia. Bell time is at 7. Doors open at 6:30. You're going to get matches like the Monster Squad and the Dirty Blondes for the Viral Pro Tag Team titles.
Deal right there.
Huge deal. Dirty Blondes are like a big name at MLW. I mean, all over the country, they're popping around.
Yep, great guys too. Very nice guys.
And hold on, I want to ask you this too. A lot of times we always hear stuff like Bruce Pritchard says when you're dealt a challenge, right?
Yeah,
you got to go out of your way. When something bad happens, if you're going to have to substitute, you try to make it in a step up or make it bigger, make it better. I'm not by no stretch saying that Chip Day is a step up or below or whatever than Joey Lynch. But when they needed a substitute in that triple threat with Darius Lockhart and Sean Legacy, Chip Day's who they pull in to fill out their triple threat for their.
Really good. That's a really good fill-in, man. That's awesome.
Damn right, it's an awesome get. So, man, make sure you're getting your tickets. Go ahead and go to vpw.ticketbud.com. Again, that is vpw.ticketbud.com. Get your tickets. Viral Pro Wrestling, Holiday Havoc, December 14th, Sweetwater Gym, 1742 Rennes Highway in Thompson, Georgia. And I mean, they're going to end out the year with a massive, massive card. Make sure you get down there and check it out, right?
Oh, definitely. Now, this Darius Lockhart guy intrigues me. I want to know more about this guy. Champion at a major promotion. Want to hear some more about him. This is going to be pretty cool. I love this. I love this system. So what we got coming up next, Nick?
Well, brother, let's get into the meat of the show, because this was going to be the thing we knew we were getting at and everybody wanted to hear about. It is the Georgia Wrestling History Awards, the actual nominees by category. We're going to throw in some input along the way. Maybe some people we thought, we're not necessarily saying they should have been nominated, but at least we want to kind of honor it, honorable mentions, maybe throw in some stuff there for some names and maybe even some reasons people weren't necessarily in there, from what we understand. So there was this committee made that I guess that took all the nominations, sorted through it, and then came out with the list. So full disclosure, I'm going to go ahead, and because this part it's not really well known, but it's maybe not known, and maybe I shouldn't say it. I was asked to, let me back up. I shouldn't say I was asked. I offered some assistance. I thought we could help make the award show, the voting a little bit simpler. So I offered some online stuff that is kind of stuff that I try to do. I try to be very tech savvy. Sometimes I have to teach myself some things.
That is the hardest thing to do is learn technology in your mid-40s.
Yeah.
But you have excelled at it. I've always been so impressed with how you've done this.
So one of the things that's going to be an exclusive here in our show is, so obviously the system is, has been built, it's been set up, and you're not going to be able to see it great, but I wanted to point out something super simple. You can do it on your phone. That's all I'm going to say. It's just, you could do it really simple on your phone. I mean, you can kind of see it vaguely there if you're looking on the screen.
Smartphone or a tablet, a laptop, a desktop. You can go to the library if you have to, if you live down.
Yeah, you're going to be able to do this all online on your phone if you have a smartphone. There's no reason that you couldn't be able to vote. Again, the way that I was told it would be done, you're basically going to message Georgia Wrestling History. You could DM them, PM them on Facebook, email them, whatever, however you choose to do it. Request an access code. You'll get an access code. And the importance of it is, I heard them talking last night on Tipping Point, and from basically the way this is going to work, it's a one-time use. You'll use your code, and it'll be done.
And it's anonymous. They don't know who the code goes to.
So, I think the voting's going to be fair. I think the voting's going to be, easy to do. There shouldn't be any reasons why,
Well, there won't be any mathematical errors
Nope.
caused by human interface. This is going to be all tallied
online.
Tallied online by a computer.
Yep. So
And
I'm excited. That's all I can say.
Scientific.
So let's go through real quick and run down through the categories. So like we said, we're going to go through them one by one. We're not going to spend forever on them. We're going to do a bigger, deeper dive on it on our Patreon page over at patreon.com/tappedoutpod. But first, let's just go. I'm literally going to go right through the order they are on the website, alphabetical order, so it makes it pretty simple. Announcer of the Year, Ben Masters, Diana Michelle, Jason Boyd, Jonathan Feltner, and Pat McDermott are the ones. First question I think we'll tackle on each one of the categories. Is there anybody that's not on there that you think deserves an honorable mention, or somebody that's omitted for a reason?
Not that I know of. I think this one is I don't disregard it the way Mr. Platinum does, but I think this is an award that does not have a lot of people actually that are in it that could win it. There's a lot of wrestling announcers in Georgia, but I think these guys are the cream of the crop.
I think that I know some of the guys work more promotions, and some of Diana Michelle works more. I think they'll have a chance for that. I think Pat has a good shot of it, but just because of the big loyal fan base of the one promotion that he worked.
Yes,
that was my take on Announcer of the Year. Booker of the Year, we have Bill Behrens and Rick Michaels at Anarchy, Dylan up at Southern Honor, James Caleb Kitchens, Viral Pro, Matt Griffin, Dylan Hales at Action, and Todd Sexton at Southern Fried. First question again, anyone not on the list that you think should be on the list, or honorable mention?
If they're not on that list, I haven't seen your work. They're not on the list. I know there's a Booker at Spinebuster, and I know Spinebuster is doing great things, but I'm not getting to see that. Just the concept that we're talking about a promotion in South Georgia that is going out of their way to make themselves so well known is great. But right now we don't have enough experience. I think the majority of the North Georgia audience, where the voters mainly are, don't know enough about it for them to be on there. I hope one day they're in consideration. I think they're your biggest get right there.
I think that your big time players are on here. I don't think there's anybody left off. I think it's a 2-horse race. We've kind of talked about it for a while. It's not the first week we've talked about it, right?
Well, if we just look at the people who have booked the shows that drew the most fans, Dylan and Todd are the ones that did the most as far as drew the most houses all year. So
the argument always comes back to, is it the promoter's job to draw the crowd, the booker's job to get the best storylines going that eventually will help draw bigger crowds? So who's chicken or the egg?
The promoter will get him in the door. The booker will make him come back.
That's the hope.
And that's what I think everybody tries to do, and I think two guys have really excelled. Now, there's some other great bookers in Georgia, but these are the two guys that have just been way out there. So we'll see how that breaks out in the end.
And so you're a Dylan Todd kind of. You think it's a neck and
I think
neck?
it's a Dylan Todd thing. I think this is old school versus new school. I think this is basically Todd's Memphis. Dylan is more AEW style, but they're both phenomenal bookers. They're just different.
I 100% agree. Female Wrestler of the Year, we have Brooklyn Creed, Crystal Rose, Danny Jordan, Ruthless Lala, and Shalanja Royal.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people are going to be critical of this because Audrey Pereira was left off the list. But she did not work a whole lot in Georgia last year.
And not in a bad way.
Huh?
And said, not in a bad way. It's because she was working
everywhere. No, she was working out of state. Right. No, she gets tons of bookings. And she's a champion at one of those big women's promotions. She's a phenomenal wrestler. But she's not one that wrestles a lot in Georgia. I love Demetria Rose. One of my favorites. She doesn't work a lot in Georgia. There's an issue with that. I hope in the future we see more Georgia talent being able to find jobs here and stay here. Brooklyn Creed did a lot backstage, not backstage, I'd say as a valet and a manager this year. Crystal Rose has had some great feuds. Danny is the one that is benefited most this year of all the female wrestlers. She has gotten work out of state, but she is on more and more cards every day in state. She's working for, I'd say, 2 of the big 3 now. And I don't see her working more. Actually, I think she's worked for a bunch of the bigger promotions in Georgia. So kudos to her.
Danny probably is my front runner in this, and it's no knock on any of the other women on this list. Here's what I'm going to make a prediction, though, for Danny Jordan. Next year, Danny Jordan will not be on this list because she will not work in Georgia enough to be on this list.
No, she won't.
I think she will move out and be working in so many other places outside of the state that she will not be on this list next year.
I would wager that the same way. I would expect to see her more. We've seen her on AEW on the television show. She's in a good spot. I think Shalonda Royal is probably the most improved female in the state of Georgia, but her push came later in the year. We didn't see a whole year out of her. So I think she'll probably win next year if things continue the way they're going right now.
Agreed. Feud of the year. This one is a lot harder than most people would think. I think we probably know who we like in this. Let's go in order. Alan Angels versus AC Mack, Joe Black and William Huckabee, Logan Creed, Corey Hollis, Matt Hankins versus Crystal Rose, Team Tag versus Matt Griffin, and The Approved versus Todd Sexton.
And this right here, this one section is also what I will call the biggest section people can learn from. One person had 2 big feuds this year, 2 major feuds at a top promotion, who basically shot himself or worked. He did a shoot and worked himself out of the voting consideration. Ashworth was predominantly factored with Hollis and Logan Creed this year. Before he had his incident, I think he would have been in this, and it would have been even more feuds to be considered. So this is just, if anybody learns anything from that situation, is be very careful about what you do and say on social media if you want to stay in any prominence.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Social media policy at my job.
I think I'm not saying those two feuds are definitely in for Feud of the Year if he's still here, but they're in consideration for it because we saw both of those up close. One was progressing and was progressing well when it all happened. I think here's the challenge. The challenge that like a feud like The Approved versus Todd Sexton faces for winning this is it happens at the beginning of the year.
Yes.
It seems like things that happened before June and before are like almost don't happen. They're like, they were so long ago. It's our microwave society's thought, like,
oh yeah,
that was forever and a day ago. So that, that doesn't count anymore.
Well, that TikTok website's so damn popular. You can watch a 3-minute video or a 1-minute video and you just sit there and watch a bunch of them and you don't follow a storyline.
Yeah.
This is why people can't read. This is why people can't come into a business and tell you the damn name, because people forget things.
Do you have a favorite in this feud?
They're all my favorite, man. Those are some great feuds. I saw blood in every single one of them, haven't I? I saw Hankins lose blood. I've seen Logan lose blood.
Angels and Mac, I don't know
that. No, they haven't bled, but their feud is different. Their feud
and
2 men determined to beat each other all over the state of Georgia and into Washington, D.C.
It is very hard to argue because Feud of the Year is not about. This is where I think people's opinions are going to fluctuate and vary as to why you would vote one way or the other. Are you asking me which feud had the best, and I'm throwing up the air quotes of matches, or which one made you emotionally connect? What made you feel? Great line, and it's actually struck home because it's Huckabee put up a thing today about being Wrestler of the Year, but he's giving people moments and making them feel.
And that's what wrestling is all about, moments and feelings, because it's a totally subjective business. And he has done a phenomenal. This thing with Joe, I really wasn't buying into it when it first started, but then it just kept building and building and drawing me in deeper and drawing me in deeper. Joe's eye injury, the contract signing where Joe did the blood oath and cut his arm open and used his blood.
Huck cut himself.
Sorry, folks, it's just my damn brain's not much good. That's a big deal. It was a moment. Okay. It was a moment that went over so well. It was very closely structured. I love the fact that Dylan lets these guys work some of this stuff out themselves. I was very happy. And by the time I saw the show last Friday night, I was like, this is amazing. Because it is. And then they had the tag team match. You know, it uses the setup because that's the way they go in all the big feuds in the WWE. You know, two guys, but then they get two other guys in from another feud and they work something out. And then the two guys meet in the ring and da-da-da-da-da. And then loved it. And those guys made me feel it.
Yeah. I think that at our core, we're probably in the core. That's the sad, that we probably both agree that that's our favorite feud.
But I mean, how can I argue with the work Corey Hollis has done?
That's the thing with this one. This one, I don't know that there is a, like, if anybody won, you kind of like, okay, but there, like I said, I just think that's our gut feeling leads us to Joe and Huck. I mean, I think that's what your gut tells you.
Well, I typically vote emotionally on things. And you could say that Allen and AC Mack had the best matches of the feud system. But when I saw some of the things that went on with the way Corey Hollis did and the pile driver to Brooklyn and some of the other stuff that happened this year, and I saw Matt Hankins bleeding in that cage. I saw Logan power slamming Hollis through the bottom of that ring, which, I mean, seriously, folks, kudos to Ox and YJ for doing that. That was awesome.
Like you said, I think the biggest point is every one of these storylines, these feuds that you're reading, there's a moment in your head that you remember.
Yes, definitely.
And then Huck nailed it 110% when he said, that is wrestling. We talked about it. Moments in wrestling are what matter. The matches will come and go. The guys going out there trying to give it 110% and we're going to steal the show, be careful. They will forget your match. People, it has to be so exceptional. Some of the greatest matches of all time don't stand the test of time versus a moment in wrestling that we just cannot, and I mean cannot forget. More people remember Hogan and Rock face to face at WrestleMania than anything. Hogan
I have no idea
slamming
who won.
Andre.
No idea who won that match. But I still remember the moment in the center of the ring where they realized what was going on with the crowd and how epic it was.
So, moments are how legends are made, and that's our next category, the Legends Award. We have Bull Buchanan, Iceberg, Jimmy Oxendine, Larry Goodman, and Robert Gibson. The challenge with this award, and we were going to talk about this. I think I'm going to let it go. I'm going to share this opinion with somebody else later. I had a matter of fact. This will be this. There's an opinion I want to talk about on this award that will be on our Patreon exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Patreon.com/tapped-out-pod. If you want to hear that opinion, it's a strong opinion, I think, about something that needs to be different, and we'll leave it at that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, guys, this is a stacked class of lifetime achievements. You've got the man who brings the rings to most of the shows in Georgia. You've got the man who is in charge of Georgia wrestling history, the most respected wrestling journalist in Georgia, a man who writes for PWI. Okay, you've got a WWE Hall of Famer in this. It's a pretty good category. So
the tough part with this one is to win this award, you do have to get 50% of the vote, and that's what makes this one a challenging win. So when somebody wins, it's pretty special when somebody wins.
Yeah.
We both, I think the funny part was this was a runaway in our opinion until a second name was added. I'm really not this one I don't want to share because I'm just this one's is a tough one. But yeah, when the second person got added, I think it really made it tough. It
Yeah.
really made it hard. Before that, I think I was all in. So, male performer of the year, we have AC Mack, Ashton Starr, Corey Hollis, Matt Sells, and Simon Sermon.
This might be one of the toughest categories. I read Simon Sermon's statement about why he should get it, and all the awards and trophies and stuff he's done this year. Man, he's killed it this year. Absolute killed it. Do we see it? No, we don't see that because that's on the other side of town from us.
Well,
so we don't get out of this match.
Here's the crazy thing. We both agree, like, it was like honorable mention, Matt Hankins.
Yes, he should have been.
Maybe should have been in the mix.
Mac actually worked matches. He's a manager, but he worked that steel cage match. He got the blood in that match that made it memorable. After the big Daryl Morris, like, look where he had popped a zit on his head, and Matt Hankins went in there and got busted open, and it was awesome.
This is another category where I don't know that you can go wrong. But
No,
like I jokingly said,
significant.
If you're talking about sheer performance, first of all, Ashton Starr is a star. How many times have we said that on Facebook?
The petty parties, the last petty party that they had last Friday night at Southern Honor, Jesus Christ, he had that crowd in the palm of his hand. He handled that contract signing. Now he's a great wrestler, but man, he is a performer.
But has anybody made a better year from a gimmick than Matt Sells. I'll leave it at that.
He has probably got more out of his gimmick than anyone else this year.
Yeah.
And he's somebody I like to see. He's worked everywhere.
Let's go ahead and move on to manager of the year. We're literally halfway through this. We're struggling here. Manager of the year, Brooklyn Creed, James Caleb Kitchens, Joseph Brock III, Logan Chase, Matt Hankins, and Ryan North. There really wasn't anybody on this list, I think, that we didn't think honorable mention should be thrown in on top of this.
Well, managers are much more prevalent in indie wrestling than they are on the bigs. And the people that are named have had, Logan Chase is the manager of Canton. Joseph Brock is manager of Southern Fried.
Brock is in Southern Fried in Middle Georgia. He's pretty heavy.
Hankins has killed it all year.
Yeah.
His videos, his dancing stuff, the fact that he has a song that's the theme for Jim Cornette's drive-thru now. Thank you, fuck you, bye. Thank you, fuck you, bye. It was okay. This right here is going to be a tight one. I've got favorites, but man, I don't envy the person who has to go through all this and pick a favorite to vote for.
Yeah, it's a tough category to say the least. But I think we're probably both leaning. We'll leave this one. We'll discuss that one more on there too.
Yes.
Mentor of the year. It's Matt Griffin, Micah Taylor, Rick Michaels, Stephen Platinum, Todd Sexton, and QT Marshall. 2-horse race on this one for me. You actually had brought up that you thought Bill Barron's deserved to be on the list as well.
Yes. Bill Barron's done a lot with Master Machine. He's done a lot. Dude, I'm sitting there in North Carolina outside the show hall. Bam, here's Bill setting up a table with his guys. Weren't advertised on the thing. It was cool. Yeah. He's up there hustling, man. Bill does a lot. But this year we're looking at two of the best teachers in indie wrestling. Maybe bigger time wrestling, big show wrestling. QT Marshall runs a phenomenal wrestling school, and he has intimate ties to AEW. Stephen Platinum can tell you everything you need to know about working a match. He can break things down and explain stuff in his videos, which are easily accessible. If you join his Patreon, you get the good, juicy stuff. But he can tell you how things should be structured for a match. There's so much to be learned from both guys. This is the tough one. This is going to be a really tough one.
Oh, I agree with you. But I think it's down for two different reasons, two different styles. I think it's down to QT Marshall for the in-ring training and the things that he can teach and that kind of stuff. Stephen Platinum is more cerebral in what he's teaching. And I'm not saying QT's not. I'm just kind of between what they're offering you to make you better.
Mhm.
That it's down to those two, in my opinion. Whew, talk about a tough one here. Most improved wrestler of the year: Ashton Starr, David Ali, Griff Garrison, Sean Legacy, Shalonda Royal, Trevor Ayon, Will Caution. That was the biggest nominated category. There were most common, and let's go ahead, and you had two names that you thought were an honorable mention, which clearly shows it had to be a struggle to get it down to this 7.
Yeah, and it was a tough one. There are people all over the state of Georgia that we watch that get better every time we watch them. Who was my first choice?
The two names we had were Danny Jordan, who couldn't because she was female wrestler of the year,
Yeah.
so that made sense why she's not in this category. But when we both were talking, what about Cyrus? Right? He was a
Cyrus has gone to Japan and he's going back. Cyrus has gone from a guy that was just a big guy to a guy that's a big muscular guy. I think Cyrus is probably the next Vader, if you were to ask me.
But do you have a favorite out of this bunch?
Well, I'm gonna throw out some of these guys. Ashton Starr is terrific and has been terrific. You're just seeing him in better light now. Trevor is phenomenal. You're getting more exposure to Trevor now that he's come back to Georgia.
Right. We think about this. We had Trevor on over 2 years ago.
Yes.
For an interview.
Yes.
And we were and it was funny because even back then, I think Trevor was, that good. I think people are just noticing it.
Yes.
Because, this is like a huge compliment in my opinion. I think he's made a more concerted effort. It seems like I see him now more on social media.
Yep.
I see him more. I think so more people are seeing him.
Yes.
And is he better? But he was always good.
Yeah. And Sean Legacy's in the same boat. We're in this part of Georgia just now getting exposed to Sean Legacy this last year. Sean is out of Augusta, but he was driving all the way damn near to Birmingham across the state of Georgia to get books. Bring him in where we can see him and put him on a good spot, and then him getting booked at all these shows all over the rest of Georgia. Super good for him. But he was already good. I think there's two people in my mind that stick out mainly in this. It's David Ali and Shalonda Royal.
Yeah.
And I think David finally embraced his inner heel. And I'm not going to say he got the confidence, but he is playing a part much better than he ever did in the past. His wrestling has gotten better. He's entertaining. And Shalonda Royal, Jesus Christ.
She was a ring announcer. I mean, literally, I know she was in ring training. We've heard that. But literally to the wrestling world as a whole,
yeah,
she jumped from ring announcer to where she is now.
To AEW.
To huge compliment. Couldn't go wrong. But I think you're right. Some days it finally just clicks with working guys, and I think we've reached that with David Ali.
Had a great year at Southern Fried, and he led a faction at Southern Honor. I mean,
Wrestler of the Year, the overall Wrestler of the Year, it's AC Mack, Corey Hollis, Michael Judas, Logan Creed, and Slim J. And I'm going to throw this in here. This is one we talked about a minute ago. You would be hard-pressed to say that he not shot himself in the foot, that at the pace he was on, he was the top babyface at one of the top promotions in Georgia. Jacob Ashworth would have probably been in this category had that. So we're not going to readdress that issue. We already talked about it with Feud of the Year. But that was kind of the big, thing we were talking about. What's your thoughts?
Yes, I agree with that 100%. And it was the best I've ever seen him work this year. And the stuff he did this year was good.
Yeah.
This is an amazing category. There is nobody on that roster that you would not want in your promotion, or if you were a fantasy booking a promotion. Every one of those guys. Judas has the experience. Judas is an imposing character. Corey Hollis has just absolutely made feuds in Georgia wrestling this year. He is the spark plug that has covered and carried so much stuff. AC Mack's phenomenal. Logan Creed came out of a shell to me. I got to see him. Something just went from the point that he was a guy on cards to he was the guy on the card. He was the guy that was carrying shows. He was blessed with working with the best workers wherever he went. So
yeah,
he's another one I don't think will be on this next year because he's going to be on the road.
Yeah, he'll be gone next year. He'll be in larger promotions, bigger. As I agree with you, and I think he'll be a back-to-back on his way out.
Yeah.
Promoter of the year: David Manders, David Manders of Southern Fried, Dennis Gale of Wrestle America, Gary Lamb, Southern Honor, Josh Hancock, VPW, Viral Pro, Matt Griffin, Action, Rick Michaels, Anarchy. Promoter of the year, they're all here. Let's be blunt. The top guys are all here.
Yeah.
And everybody's, hey, you want to toot the horn? Nobody's going to toot his own horn better than the guy who's run. And look, I get it. Everybody else on the planet can claim that they've done a great job. The crazy thing is, you are absolutely correct. There are lots of guys on this list that did a great job. But here's the but. Some years, it is not your year. There's a sports analogy where, we had a great team. We were ready to go on top, but you run into the buzzsaw that was the Golden State Warriors. You had a great year. It's supposed to be your year, but you run into just a team that it's their year.
Mm.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2019 for Promoter of the Year, it's Gary Lamb's year. Because started at the end of last year, and nobody, and I mean nobody, toots their horn and gets their name out there better than Gary Lamb.
That horn is always tooting.
Toot, toot.
Toot, toot. I mean, folks, everybody in this business that's a promoter has a job. But Gary's job is promoter. He promotes his church. He promotes his festivals. He promotes wrestling. I think people should learn from the way he does things. I don't think there'll ever be another Gary Lamb, but there are things Gary Lamb does that make sense as far as the way he promotes stuff. Pay attention to him. The best. He is the Nick Saban of Georgia wrestling.
I would make one, and here's the funny thing, and love these guys personally, talk to them, on Facebook and social media. I almost sit here and go, Kitchens promotes Viral Pro as much as anybody.
Yes.
And could argue that he down the road could make that challenge. He's the closest contender with the personality than anybody. And I'm not, let's see. Guess what? That's what 2020 is for, is can he catch Gary Lamb?
Mm-hmm.
But I think the promoter for Viral is James Caleb's Kitchen. That's just my opinion. I know he's Booker, but that's just my opinion, to say the least. So, I mean, am I wrong or am I wrong?
I get what you're saying 100%. I get what you're saying. And this is a year where, everybody's done pretty good. Southern Fried's had a pretty good year. I love David. He's a friend of mine, somebody I talk to. So I just think that's Gary's year. It's just Gary's year.
This is one of the I tell people when they're voting, it's the shoulds, not the wants. Let's move on. Promotion of the year. It's all of the big dogs. It's Action, Anarchy, Southern Honor, Southern Fried, Viral Pro, and Wrestle America. Here's the thing. This is the one category that I had a note jotted down. You're still voting shoulds versus wants.
Yeah.
If I had a want that I could slide in here, it was a funny thing that I was like, Spinebuster deserves to be in this shot because there's not a category for most improved promotion.
Yes. And Spinebuster will be in this next year, in my opinion. They're going to bump somebody off that list. It's a legitimate thing. They're drawing good houses on Wednesday nights. They've got a good crew. They've got Hold My Beer Hansen, who is a front man for that promotion. He's constantly ringing the bell, constantly talking to North Georgia, talking about shows, getting his reports in. One of the nicest guys I've met since I've been doing this. So I would say one of you people on this list is going to be knocked off next year by Spinebuster.
That's always a challenge. Like it's like the teams in the NFL who don't make the playoffs the following year, and vice versa. A new team always slides in. This is the one I'm gonna screenshot this and hold this and see the repeat for next year. Referee of the year, we talked about it, a little bit. It's David Weekley, Daryl Hall, Duke Silver, Todd Fox, Ray Boring.
Okay, I don't know Silver or Boring, just honestly. I've seen a lot of Todd Fox. He has a great future in the referee business. He's doing a good job. But when you're going up against Daryl and David, seriously though, those are the guys. And if you ever see them on a show together, that stuff's going to go right perfectly. They run that thing, they handle it. I think those are the two front runners by far in this category.
I agree with you there.
And also people I like, very much to stand and talk to.
Yeah, I've sat and watched wrestling shows with both. I mean, I think they're probably the two best referees in Georgia right now. Show of the year. It's also called Live Event of the Year, and this is kind of the waffle on this thing that people want to try to argue. Let's give you the nominees that were given out. It's Action Wrestling for God's Sake Kick Out. That was on October 25th. The McClure Benefit Show, August 11th. Southern Fried Championship Wrestling Undisputed, which was our Thanksgiving show. Southern Honor, the 1000 show, which was May 3rd. And Viral Pro Infection 4, which was done on August 10th. First and foremost, I want to give you, because I don't know if you even remember these, we discussed a little bit, and there's 4 cards, because it depends on if it's event or is it matches. That's the key to when you're voting here. We had 4 cards that we thought could have made this list.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
For different reasons. One, if you're talking matches, you were super invested in the Crossroads from Southern Fried.
Yes, because that casket match killed it. That whole entire crowd lost their shit on that one.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
So, and then even the conversations that we've had, these two cards were neck and neck in our opinion. If you were talking event, Shindig was a massive, attendance event.
And there were 2, I guess, which we'd call stipulation or special matches. You had the Anarchy Games at Anarchy, and you had the War Games at Southern Honor, which I thought were tremendous shows. Just top to bottom, tremendous shows. I think Matt Hankins and that whole Anarchy Games match, Crystal Rose, man, that was awesome show. Yeah. And Logan Reed powerbombing Corey Hollis, the 2 rings, steel cage went around both rings, true War Game style. That was phenomenal.
Yeah,
great moments.
In the ones nominated, Larry Goodman said that Action could have been easily the best matches, top to bottom on a card. So if you're a wrestling guy, you might lean that way. Undisputed was the recovery. Let's be blunt. This was the recovery from the Jacob Ashworth fallout. The totally booked had to be redone and fixed.
Yes.
Viral Pro, I've seen Infection 4. It's a really good card stacked today. It's the one that James Storm was there. Southern Honor was the epitome of event. It was spectacle. It was a moment.
And when Omega came out of the crowd, and when the lights went out and there was Chris Jericho, yeah.
Nuts.
Nationwide press coverage in the wrestling media. Front page of Pro Wrestling Stories. Not Pro Wrestling Stories. Pro Wrestling Sheet. Guys, that was a big deal. That was 1,000 people for the first time at a Georgia indie show forever, not counting the Lucha shows. That's something I would like to see. One day, I would like to see the Lucha shows involved in all this. I think it would be good for business. I think they do something very special, and I would like to see them involved in the process in the future. I don't know if they will, because, hell, You draw 2,500 people, and you don't even have your posters in English. So
Yeah, I don't really know that they're a Georgie indie show in the sense of what we're thinking, but
or they
um,
only happen 4 times a year.
yeah. I just think again, if you're boiling it down to event, I mean, can it be anything other than the Son of Honor show?
No, and this was a year of shows. Okay, powerful shows, all big deal, high drawing shows all over the state of Georgia.
But nobody strutted Cody Rhodes, Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, all out on one show.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's pretty. If you vote for anything other than that, then you have to be voting in your hearts that you're like, what were the best matches from top to bottom on a card,
Yes.
not the biggest event, spectacle, and moment.
Yes.
Let's go move on to Tag Team of the Year. We've got 2 categories left. So Tag Team or Stable of the Year, the Lynch Mob, Undeniable, led by Matt Hankins, Master Machine, Griff Garrison, Marcus Cross, with, of course, Bill Behrens, JBE, led by Joseph Brock III. There have been numerous members over the whole year. The Hierarchy, led by Blacklist Uno, and of course in Southern Honor, the New Era, which was a hodgepodge of people over the time of Danny Jordan, David Ali, AC Mack came later, Alan Angels was the original leader, Lee Johnson, Owen Knight, and of course, don't forget our buddy O'Shea Edwards was in there as the muscle there for a while. So. Mm-hmm. Real quickly, I don't mean to cut these too short, but is there anybody that you kind of thought, hey, we left them off there? They, as far as they didn't.
A pretty good coverage of the entire year. You've got top factions and top tag teams in it. So
yeah, this one could be one of the tougher ones again as well.
The winner's not even of last year's winner's not even on the ballot.
Yeah,
Team Tag won last year. They're not even on the ballot this year.
It's crazy. So super tough, and that's a tough one to say the least. We're going to wrap up with Technician of the Year. The nominees are Alan Angels, Chip Day, Joe Black, Shane Marks, and Slim J. Technician, the only name that we kind of, between the two of us, were bannering around that honorable mention is Sean Legacy, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
But you can't. I mean, it's just one of these. They're so crowded, right? There's some of these categories are so crowded.
And I think the makeup of these categories will be tremendously different next year.
Okay? I agree.
Tremendously different next year. I have a hard time picking in this because those guys are all phenomenal wrestlers. I think
it's
next
sick.
year you're going to have Kyle Matthews back in the mix, the 8-time winner. Next year for Wrestle of the Year, you're going to have Gunnar Miller involved in the mix. He's got an entire year signed with Southern Honor. You're going to see people leave. Logan Creed will leave. I believe Danny Jordan will be leaving, much like she's had to leave every time you've tried to book her for the show. You've not been able to get around to her. But again, we ran over on time, so
we can already go ahead and say it. Yeah, we apologize to all of to the listeners in advance. Danny Jordan's not going to be able. We're over our hour time limit, and then so we'll have hopefully get her on next week. We apologize for to Danny. It's just sorry. We'll get her eventually, so we will see. But that's all the nominees, man. That is all of the categories. The biggest thing to remind everybody of. Look, the system's going to be easier. The system's going to be a lot more, it's easier, it's fair, and I think that's the two things when you're doing any type of balloting that are most important.
Yes.
So remember, if you first of all, you have to be in the wrestling business in some way, form, or fashion. It is not a fan voted event, so you are voted on by your peers. That's the important part. Somehow, some way, whether through an email or through, I always say the easiest thing to do would be private message Georgia Wrestling History on Facebook. That'd be an easy way. Just saying. And then request an access code, and they will get you those, and then you'll get that access code, and you will be able to log in. You'll get a link to where to vote and your code on how to vote. And then once you kind of vote, boom, you'll be done. Your vote will be counted, one-time use, which is awesome. And that's it, man.
I was lucky enough to be involved in the beta testing for this program and got to do some test voting, which does not count, but it was testing to make sure the website and everything was functional. It is incredibly easy to do this. super easy. Shouldn't have any problems at all. We'll be expecting an announcement when voting starts and stops. And then the January, was it the 6th episode?
Of the tip, yep.
Episode of Tipping Point where they announce the winners.
Yeah, that I'm excited about that. They just did their final episode of this year. They'll be back on January the 6th, I believe, like you said. There will be their return episode, and they will announce all of the winners on the Tipping Point. Make sure you catch that episode. But biggest thing is, man, if you can get a vote, vote. If you're in the business and you don't even request an access code to vote, then I always tell people it's kind of like voting in real life. If you don't vote, you don't have a right to complain.
Can't bitch. You don't vote, you can't bitch. You don't like the way the thing came out. You don't like it all, the process. You don't tell somebody, don't count.
Absolutely, 100% agree.
Vote for what you want to vote, folks. And if you're a fan, vote for the shows you want to vote by going to them and buying a ticket, getting them the exposure. Because when you're in a house and they turn in a house that's over 300 people, that gets noticed, regardless of what part of the state of Georgia you're in.
If you're a wrestling fan and you fancy yourself a writer and you think that you can write a real review, hey, nothing's stopping you from writing one and sending it in. If it's done well, it's done objective, very constructive. Who's to say they won't put those in Georgia wrestling history, right?
Yep. Get your show exposure. Promote your show. Go to your show, buy tickets. It's the best way you can do it, folks.
And promoters, if you're not sending your stuff in, don't complain about not being mentioned in these.
Don't expect to get an award if you're not submitting show reports.
Yep. Well, man, that's a lot. That was a big show. I knew we would go over with that because, like I said, that's so important to us. It hits so close to home here in Georgia. That wear you out, Myron?
Yes, all that damn thinking.
Yeah. So, but man, we again, make sure you vote. Check out our friends over at Georgia Wrestling History. That's a huge one. We also want to thank this week's sponsors again. We told you earlier, but check out Viral Pro Wrestling. They are going to be down in the Sweetwater Gym at 1742 Renz Highway, Thompson, Georgia, December 14th. That is this Saturday. vpw.ticketbud.com is where you can pick up your tickets. Again, that is vpw.ticketbud.com. And you can see the main event right there. Sean Legacy, Darius Lockhart, Chip Day, triple threat for the Viral Pro Wrestling heavyweight title. And, of course, the Monster Squad versus the Dirty Blondes. So, again, head on over. Get your tickets at vpw.ticketbud.com. I'm sure you will not be disappointed.
Do not miss this show, folks. Do not miss the show.
So, man, well, brother, I know there's all the kind of things we could plug and stuff like that, but I'm beat, man. And so whether we want to say it or not, we always say it. If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, then what time is it?
It's time to tap out.